Hello there. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHD and ADHDers. And we have been, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm also the parent of a couple of ADHD kids, and I married into an ADHD family. And when I started out as a parent, ADHD did not exist. ADD did not exist. Okay, ADD didn't come in to the diagnostic manual until 1980, and ADHD didn't come into the diagnostic manual until 1987. So we were flying blind there for a lot of years, and for a lot of those were the young years of a couple of my kids. And we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how to explain it. We didn't know why they did what they did. Why did they have these terrific temper tantrums? Why did they seem to forget, like in seconds, what you had just told them or asked them to do? And a lot of times we thought it was behavior. They just rebellious little so-and-sos. And that was not the case. They had ADHD. ADHD is a neurologic condition. So you can't treat it like a behavior problem. It's based on physiology. Their body chemistry is slightly different, that's all. And they're not mean to get in your way, do bad things, and all that stuff. But I've been talking for the last I guess it's 5 sessions. Maybe it's even 6. I didn't really bother to stop and count them, but about the problems of people who are late diagnosed. In my clinical practice, those were the folks who were the most emotionally distressed by not having been diagnosed and treated early. Well, they were the only ones, okay, but the idea is that they grew up not knowing, that they had a condition that could be treated, and instead had to figure out how to wing it on their own, frequently without much support, and with a whole heck of a lot of criticism. So that bends you, that shapes the way you think about yourself, and it's not always it's mostly not very pleasant. Okay, if you keep losing jobs because your working memory stinks and you can't remember what the boss told you to do, or you are such a flibbity gibbet you can't stay focused on boring jobs particularly, and in relationships you're impulsive and tend to interrupt people, and you still kind of have that problem with temper usually. It's not quite as bad as it was when you were 7 years old, but it's still there. And that causes some difficulties in sustaining a relationship. And, your inability to stay focused for very long, forgetting, hey, honey, on the way home, would you pick up dip, 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 and dip? And then you come cruising in the door and you haven't got any of it. Okay, so we will go through this stuff. And I want to start out doing it with emotions, because those are what hits you the most when somebody comes into your office. I think and so on. Okay, so people who have ADHD and don't know they have it usually come in and they're depressed, most commonly. Some of them are anxious. They're anxious because they know they're going to screw something up and they don't know what to do about it, or if they can do anything about it. So after a lifetime pretty much of that kind of stuff going on, and you're not knowing what's wrong, you're not trying to make people angry or anything, but they're getting angry because you're forgetting stuff. So a pattern of that kind of stuff, and I say almost every week, ADHD kids on average get 70 critical comments a day. 70. Think about that. It's hard to fit that into a day, but they do. And think about growing up like that, with always being criticized. It's emotionally, it's a lot like being punished all the time. It's, what did you do that for? Why didn't you, and so on. So it's that, that emotional stuff is really bad. And over time, you start to think there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm lazy. Maybe I'm not very smart. Some people even go, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. And there's a famous book by a woman named Karen Kelly, and she's got a co-author who I can't remember right now. The title of the book, it's about ADHD, and it's, you mean I'm not lazy, crazy, or stupid? Okay, that's kind of a quick way of looking at the way these people grow up thinking about themselves and the way their emotions start being trained. If you think you're going to mess up all the time, you don't have any confidence. And that goes a couple of different ways. If you don't have confidence, you avoid doing stuff. There's one way to do it. And the other is you just do it and get mad at anybody who dares noticing that it wasn't right. Either way, it's not going to lead to a very successful adjustment or lifestyle. I mean, it's hard to keep a job when you're like that. It's hard to keep a relationship going when you're like that. It's hard to have friends when you're like that. Okay, so at the extreme, and this is I see this more with as guys. I don't have any research to think it's more of a male problem, but women with ADHD tend to be quieter and keep it more to themselves. They tend to go towards the inattentive part of the diagnostic framework, and but the guys, they're more, well, first of all, they're more likely to be overtly hyperactive. They're more likely to be thrill seekers, in the sense of riding their bicycle off the roof kind of thrill. Women who have ADHD have their own way of seeking thrills, but it's a lot different. But the guys that do all this thrill seeking stuff, they also, well, there's problems for doing that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that, if you're trying to ski with nobody's ever skied before, or ride your bike where nobody's ever ridden before, you're going to get busted up. It's just going to happen. And that pays a toll over the course of your life. And it doesn't take very long if you're constantly in the orthopedic unit. So, emotions tend to be all out of whack. Anxiety, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of hostility. I forgot to mention that. A lot of anger in some cases. Some people get super alienated, and I think I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, but you get alienated from it. What the heck? Nothing I do works out anyway, so the heck with them all. I'm just going to do what I want to do, and they can go suck eggs or something. That's probably not the best way to have a successful life, and it can get you into trouble, because then you're not with the folks who are making it. You're with the folks who aren't making it, who are also angry, and then you start doing some stuff that maybe you shouldn't be doing. Maybe it's full illegal stuff, but a lot of it's going to be some kind of substance abuse, drug addiction, that kind of thing. So not a pretty picture on just the emotional end and the reaction to the emotions. And your self-esteem, your self-identity, the way you think of yourself. Most of us try to think of ourselves as pretty decent folks who try hard to do stuff and make a living and support our families and that kind of thing. If you don't feel like you can do that, you're thinking of yourself as a failure. Okay. And then, health-wise, as long as we're close to that, when you're not feeling good about yourself, you look for relief. When you look for relief in this society, a lot of it has to do with taking pills or drinking, uh, that sort of stuff, and that can rapidly go into abuse, uh, especially since it initially, at least, feels better than real life. So you have got uh, a problem health wise because you're not taking care of yourself, and that uh, you got low self esteem, you're feeling anxious, depressed, or angry. Uh, you're not taking good care of your health. Uh, it's hard. A lot of exercise is boring. I mean, just kind of is, and so it's hard for an ADHDer to get into a program of just exercise. Now, if it's something that's got a little rush to it, like racing and that kind of thing, then yeah, hey, here I am, count me in. They have some troubles with that, so they are, but that's at least they'll stay focused on it. If you're just looking at attention, stay focused on that. You got Michael Phelps, the swimming, 6 hours a day or whatever it was every day of his life. That stimulates dopamine. It makes him feel better, and our culture enjoys that stuff. Thinks that's a neat thing. But not everybody's a Michael Phelps, and most people just kind of don't exercise very much and don't do very much, and they drink too much or have a special kind of narcotic or drug or whatever that they like. So they're not going to be real healthy. Okay, and they're hyper and high energy, but they're taken out of their body's reserves rather than building up their bodies. And they, like I said, they tend to, especially the ones that get alienated, they tend to hang out with a crowd that tends to get into trouble and abuse substances and so on. And so they're more likely to show up in the emergency room. I know one guy who got drunker than a lord at a bar and wanted to take on the bouncer at the bar who weighed like 300 pounds. Fortunately, he had friends around him or people with him who recognized that was somewhat short of suicidal, but it was not a good thing for him to be doing. So they grabbed him and got him out of there before he got hurt, which is all to the good. We've talked about emotions. We've talked about health. Thinking. Now, thinking is one of those things. It's very complicated, and it's involved in almost every other area. Thinking is how you to generate your emotions. Thinking is how you generate your lifestyle. Thinking, so it's a very huge area. But one of the things that gets ADHDers into trouble is the working memory problem and executive functioning problems. Okay, for those of you who aren't familiar with working memory, memory divides into a lot of different types of memory, verbal memory, visual memory, long-term memory, short-term memory, lots of different ways of parsing it up. But working memory is what I usually call the etch-a-sketch part of memory. It's when you are trying to remember something just till you get the job done. You are told to, with an ADHD kid, you tell them to go upstairs, make your bed, pick up your clothes off the floor, and bring them down to, for laundry. And then they go upstairs and you find that they maybe made the bed halfway and now they're playing video games. That's working memory. Okay, because working memory is stuff you want to hold in memory temporarily, just till you get the job done. Excuse me. And it is one of those things that ADHDers don't do well at all. Okay, they all, and it's not, it's not dementia. Sometimes it kind of looks that way, but it's not dementia. It's strictly that their working memory isn't very good. And think about this: what if the boss comes up to you and tells you he wants you to do this, this, and this, and you go to where you're supposed to do it, and you get one thing done, and you can't remember what the other two things are? That'll have quite an impact on your employment, and you will get it. You'll have problems because he'll get frustrated with you. And if you're working in a kind of job where your supervisor's not particularly sophisticated, shall we say, he's not going to understand, and he's just going to think you're sloppy, or you're lazy, or you're rebellious, and you don't get treated very well with any of those things. So that's thinking gets affected. The ability, the actual act of the way we think about things is affected by ADHD. You can't retain information for very long. You therefore are easily forgetful. You do something and you forget you did it, and that you were going to come back and fix it up later. And it's like, you always see the things about the person wanting to clean the house, and so they start in one room and they vacuum for about 10 minutes, and then they go to another room and start hanging clothes up, and they do that for another 10 minutes, and then they go to another room and start putting the dishes in the sink, and then after 10 minutes of that, they go somewhere else and do something else. So at the end, they have finished nothing, but have started 5 different projects. Okay, if you're doing that at work, you're going to get fired. If you do that at home, your spouse is not going to be very happy that, can't count on getting anything done all the time. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about a little bit in more detail is social, because social interactions with ADHDers, they pay a price for that. Because some people are tolerant and they accept that, but some people are not going to be happy if you keep forgetting things, like maybe even their name, and they're going to shun you. They're not going to want to be around you. And maybe you're too hyper, you're too energetic, maybe you interrupt too much, maybe you don't let anybody finish what they're talking about before you jump in with something else that you want to talk about. We should remember that ADHD is a whole spectrum disorder. That you can have a little bit of it, or you can have a whole bunch of it. If you've got just a little bit of it, you can learn compensatory strategies that'll pretty much cover you probably. If you've got a lot of it, there is no doubt you should be on medication, okay? And I don't, there's a lot of woo-woo going around in the world right now about medicine, the whole practice of medicine, the medical practice, and all kinds of things, and they're unrealistic. I just was reading an article the other day, and the guy said unequivocally, treatment of ADHD is the greatest success that the practice of medicine has ever had. It's like, wow. I mean, that is a broad statement, but he's right. I mean, you put somebody on medication, and it's not months. It's 2 or 3 weeks maybe to acclimate, and they're functioning much better. And most of them are so happy they're sending flowers to the office or something. But that is an area that people tend to medications. People tend to be suspicious of it and all that stuff. Well, I invite you, just look at the research, read a little bit, ask some questions of reputable people, not somebody who's going to tell you that if you chew tomatoes and put an onion under each armpit, you will cure yourself of ADHD, or some of these other pseudo cures. Okay, I'm not going to say that there aren't some natural cures that work. Most medicine came from natural cures, so it's not unlikely. But it's just they are not going to be as potent as a regular medication. So, and I am a psychologist, a neuropsychologist actually, and I don't write prescriptions, so I don't have anything in this game at all, except that it helps a lot of people with minimal exertion. Trying to treat people with compensatory strategies is fine, but it's slow. It takes a long time to get a new routine into somebody's life, especially if they have ADHD. Okay, so that's thinking, the way you think, the emotions it causes, the behaviors you do, the way you take care of your body, your social life, all are affected by ADHD. And all of them can make you pretty unhappy. And so that's why late diagnosed people are a little trickier to work with. I mean, some it's like they get on medication and they come back and see me in a week or two and they're like, they got tears in their eyes almost. I didn't know it could be this easy. Oh my God, I feel so good. I'm paying attention so well. I have so much better control over my attention. I have so much better control over my impulsivity. I don't blurt out things all the time like I used to. This is great. Yeah, and that's pretty good. But a lot of people, even though they're feeling better, they have still got the anxiety, the depression, the anger. The ones who gets hung up on anger are the ones that they take a long time to work through things with. Okay, that's pretty much it. Think, feel, do, body, social. Those are the broad categories. And those are all things that are negatively impacted by late diagnosis of folks. So if you're a parent right now with a kid and you're wondering, should I or shouldn't do, go ahead with the evaluation. If you're lucky, well, whatever. It'll be either one or two ways. Either they'll say, yeah, that looks like ADHD, and this is the treatment. Or they'll say, nah, nothing wrong with him. Or maybe there'll be something else that's causing the problem. Learning disabilities sometimes can look like ADHD, and a bunch of other things I won't list right now that you should, do it and do it, pretty early. I mean, you want to, I never wanted to do anybody below the age of 6, and I've done a few that are 5, but they were 5 plus. I just don't, I don't see the point of doing it that early. I mean, there are some, I know that they're just totally out of control and you don't know what to do with yourself. So yeah, have somebody look at them, and you get started on treatment a little bit earlier. You start reaping the rewards a little bit earlier, and it makes you're a much better parent if you're aware of ADHD, and especially if you've got a family history of it. And there are some other things that are masked and look like ADHD, but that's a long list, and I've been here a long time already, and I don't want to take too much more of your time. Okay, so I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. This has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. And my website is terrygingrasphd.com. I've got some offers and some things on there. And I'm been telling folks for a while now, but I'm getting a little closer to. I'm going to start a membership group. It's more one of the things that ADHD parents, particularly, but even ADHDers that are in the late diagnosed category, is they don't have a lot of places where they can go and communicate with people who understand them, and so that's basically what we'd be doing with the membership group. And it's usually it's a subscription kind of thing, so you just pay by the month, or you can pay by the year if you want to. We give you a little cut on that, but it's not ready to go just yet, so just hold on. And I'm thinking also about doing a thing on a little short course on meditation, relaxation. I will talk a little bit about biofeedback and hypnosis too, but we probably won't do much of that. But I'm just thinking about doing that. Just do 2 or 3, probably 3 sessions, and well, it's still fuzzy. It's still in the planning stages, but I have a postdoc in behavioral medicine, which is all about biofeedback and relaxation training and chronic pain and that sort of stuff. So we're used to this sort of thing. I don't do as much of it now as I used to, but there are some tricks that you can learn that are real good for yourself and for your child. So we'll be talking about those. I just, again, got to get it set up, but it'll be coming. And let me know if any of those are interesting to you. Gives me a little more motivation to go ahead and finish it. Okay, that's all for now. We will see you next week. And thanks for watching.